Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Sylvia. And since I am a newer mom, in today's video, I wanted to share basically what I've learned, what has changed in 1 year of being a mom. I actually filmed this at the week that Amelia turned 1, and then I realized that I hadn't had time to really process and let it sink in that I had been a mom for a whole year. So she's almost 1.5 years now, and now I feel more prepared to basically share with you everything that I've learned, everything that I was afraid of that ended up being not a big deal, vice versa. Basically, this is the video I wish I had when I was just a few weeks before having my baby and wanting to know what I needed to know before going into this. So today I'm going to be talking about the sleep deprivation, what we did to help with that, body changes, my weight, my skin, which is the one thing that changed so dramatically that I didn't know what to do with myself, and time management and life in general, what has changed. So I do have to start off by saying that I think I'm in the happiest, most grounded place I've ever been in my whole life. And that was definitely not the case when she was born. I felt like a fish out of water. I was just so not in my element. I feel like I was doing everything I possibly could to try and be a good mom, but I dealt with postpartum depression, which I'll get into a little bit. And yeah, it was not smooth sailing in the beginning, but I do have to say that I am the happiest, most fulfilled I think I've ever been. And that's why I thought now is a good time to basically bring you a recap of 1 year of being a mother. All right, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is my skin, because that was the thing that for over 30 years, I thought I knew how to take care of my skin and I knew my skin well. And then my skin just completely changed. I had the driest skin I'd ever had my entire life. And I tried everything to just overly hydrate my face, and it just, nothing was working. And then I felt like in some areas I was getting more fine lines and deeper, probably because I wasn't sleeping also. And the more I tried to diagnose myself and treat it with products that I thought would work, it was just a huge mess, to the point that I kind of just neglected my skin. It just wasn't a priority. And then Dramatica reached out to me, who I am very excited to be partnering with today, where they've sponsored a portion of today's video. And they reached out to me and were like, hey, do you want to try a personalized formula? And I was like, yes, this is the help that I need. Regardless of a sponsorship, I just wanted someone to essentially hold my hand, take my skin concerns and give me something that was gonna work. And that's exactly what happened. I had products delivered to me. And in the past, when I tried personalized skincare, it was kind of like to treat or, take care of things that I kind of already knew how to take care of. This was definitely different for me. Anyway, they sent me one personalized formula. That's what I love about this. It's just so simple. It's not this crazy routine. They did send me other products for hydration and all of that, but I am so happy with my skincare. I feel like it's easier than what I was doing before, and I see so many more results, and I feel like for the price for the results you're getting is absolutely incredible. So when I got the product, I noticed that it was tretinoin, and then I was like, wait, isn't that retinol? And I was like, oh, I've tried retinol. I feel like it's always too strong for my skin, and I honestly was a little bit scared, but I was like, you know what? I work from home. I'm just going to try it and really see what it does for me. And the first day I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to try and get too excited, because obviously this is the first time I'm trying this. But yeah, it's been smooth sailing. My skin has never peeled or flaked the way it normally does anytime I used retinols in the past. And yeah, I feel like my skin feels tighter, but in a young way. We've all tried products that do that and it doesn't feel good on the skin. This actually feels good. So yeah, I just apply my personalized formulation on cleansed skin at night before I go to bed. And in the morning, I make sure to wear sunscreen And that's literally been my skincare routine. Honestly, it's so easy. And I mentioned on Instagram that I'm using less. I haven't used foundation. I used a little bit of concealer stick under my eyes today because I'm filming, but I actually feel confident enough in my skin to where I can go out without like a ton of face makeup, which is huge. Like I have not done that since I was a young teenager. So I feel like with my age and just my lifestyle, like I wanted something that was just going to be so much easier, not only just to do in the morning because I have a young baby now, but also something that was going to cater to my now skin. I feel like I've been wearing makeup, doing skincare to treat the skin I had in my 20s, and we're just not there anymore, and that's fine, but I needed to do something to change. So, and whatever complex blend this is, I feel like my skin just receives moisture in a different way that my skin hasn't been doing in a very long time. And I think that's, again, I was using super hydrating products, or so I thought, but I think they were just sitting on the surface of my skin and not actually working. And if you two are looking to get results with a personalized formula that's not going to break the bank and that's going to be an easy routine, I highly suggest you try Dermatica. So follow the link below and use my code Sylvia to start your skin journey today. All right, the other thing I wanted to talk about, of course, was sleep, or my fear of sleep deprivation. Everyone told me you're not going to sleep for the next 18 years. And I personally do not function well, and I'm not happy if I don't have a decent amount of good sleep. So I was really afraid of that. Honestly, I think we have a really good pediatrician, and I voiced this to her, and she was like, the main thing you're trying to teach a young baby is that night time is for sleeping and not for like wake up, play. Even though when you have a newborn, you are waking up every 2.5 to 3 hours to feed and change your baby. Obviously that's inevitable in the first couple of months, first couple of weeks. But she kind of instructed us on, at night you feed them in a dark place, or minimal light. You change them, you don't interact too much. And at first this was very like non-intuitive to me. I thought I want to play and cuddle my baby every time she's awake, but I really follow this at night, and around her 3.5 month mark she did start sleeping 8-hour stretches, which was huge, absolutely huge. And uninterrupted sleep is like, it's something you don't really appreciate until you have it taken away from you. And so I think that was huge, finally getting 8-hour stretches where you start to feel kind of sane again. The other thing was breastfeeding. I had told myself that I was not going to be hard on myself, and if breastfeeding wasn't for me, I wouldn't be hard on myself, and that I would just go with the flow. For my mom did not have an easy situation with breastfeeding, so I feel like that was just kind of always in the back of my mind. If that happens to me, I'm not going to beat myself up for it. Well, like Adam was very adamant that I give it a shot, and so I did. And the second you start, you just get so wrapped up and you want this to work so badly for you and your baby. And our issue was that Amelia was just not latching. She would only latch in the morning when my milk supply was just crazy amounts, essentially. In the middle of the day, if it like wasn't, excuse my language, like squirting in her face, like she didn't want it. She obviously also got used to the bottle because I wasn't just gonna go like a week without feeding my child. So we did give her the bottle, and it was just making the latching more difficult. Anyway, I ended up getting a medical grade pump, and that's what I used, and that was such a godsend. But of course it's a lot more work because you're constantly pumping or washing the parts or putting it in bottles, feeding the baby, and then the cycle starts all over again, especially when you're doing it as often as like every 2.5 hours, which is what we did for the first, I think, 2 months. Pediatricians are very like adamant about getting their weight back up after most babies lose weight you know, in their first couple of weeks of being born. So that part was really stressful. Honestly, that with the mixture of postpartum depression was the absolute worst part of motherhood, of, you know, those first couple of weeks of having a newborn. I've said it a million times now, seeing how amazing parenthood is. I would honestly like have 10 kids if someone could guarantee me that I wouldn't get postpartum depression, and if I didn't have to deal with the breastfeeding portion of it. But now that I have breastfed one kid, if I were to have a second child, I feel like I would want to try again, just, you know, for the sake of both kids getting that benefit of breast milk. But honestly, it's absolutely the hardest thing I have ever done. Literally, like, I would wake up some days and be like, with a mixture of the postpartum depression and the tediousness of it, and I promise this video is going to be positive and not me complaining about it, but I just need to be honest. It was absolutely the hardest thing I've ever done. And the thing is, like, when you're in it, it seems so scary because you also don't see like an end in sight. You're like, this baby is mine. Like, this isn't going to get easier. And the truth is, if you are watching and you are either a new mom who's in the trenches right now, or you are pregnant for the first time and you're wondering about this, it does get easier in a very different way. For me, I would say her being a year and a half now is a million times easier than it was when she was a newborn. I have other parents saying different things. I can only speak on my journey, and for me, it is a million times easier. There are other things that are harder. Obviously, when she was 3 weeks old, I can lay her literally on the couch and she wouldn't move. Sure. Now I have to constantly worry, like, did you put something in her mouth? Or, you know, is she, you know, climbing stairs or stuff like that? Of course, there are different worries, but I feel like regardless, like, the payoff that you have from a child that smiles at you and, you know, talks to you and is learning every day, and like just seeing this beautiful journey, like, I think that mixed with the difficult parts now, I feel like so much easier, just in my experience anyway. The other thing too is, I've said this again also on my Instagram, but I think everyone talks about the difficult stuff, and I think it is important too, because we don't want to sugarcoat how difficult it is in, you know, those first couple of months, but how beautiful parenthood also is. Absolutely no one can prepare you for how beautiful this is going to feel. And I had heard people say that, and it's like, I'm sure it's amazing. I have a dog, like, you probably love him, like, in that it's the most fulfilling, most sweet, most amazing thing that gives you purpose to your own life. Like, it's nothing that I'm saying is new or special, but until you feel it, there are no words to describe that amazing feeling that you feel as a parent once you feel like you've got the hang of things. And I think that's been my biggest thing, is feeling like I've got this, I know what I'm doing. I've realized I'm just so not good at being a newbie in anything. Like, when I started driving, when I started doing hair, I want to become an expert the second I do something, which is not possible. But yes, both Adam and I have said, if we knew it was this amazing, we would have done this sooner. And it is so true. I feel like both Adam and I take things pretty seriously, and something, you know, as big of a responsibility as parenthood. I feel like we were always like, we need to be ready, we need to be prepared. And honestly, I think whenever the time happens, you jump into your best self and you become the best parent you can be at whatever stage of life you're in. But again, you will never be prepared for just how amazing being a parent really is. And this is definitely one of those things that I feel like I say with the utmost confidence. It is the most beautiful, most amazing thing I have ever done. And so when you would hear parents say like, it's the hardest thing I've ever done, but it's like the best and it's so rewarding. Like, again, I really just imagine that, like having a dog. Like I got so much enjoyment out of taking care of our dog. I felt like our weekends became all about her and all of that. But like, I mean, a child is that like times 10,000. It really is. And I remember even when we were pregnant, Adam and I would always like say like, I can't imagine loving like another human like more than we love our dog. Like, is that possible? And it's just so different. But it really is just the best feeling. And I feel like in the beginning when Amelia was just a couple weeks old, I do remember thinking like, oh my gosh, I remember when people would like be like, when are you having kids? When are you having kids? And I remember thinking, this is so hard. Why would any parent kind of like push another adult to do this? Like, you should only do this if you're like totally in love with the idea of having kids. And I'd said this in a vlog a while back. And I feel like, again, that was me speaking from just doing something so difficult in that moment. And I feel like now I totally understand when other parents are like, are you gonna have kids? And I do continue to think that is such a personal choice. And I feel like if you have decided to be kid-free, you should absolutely do that. I would never be that person that would, you know, like try to be like, but you should try, like, just no. I do feel everyone should absolutely do what they feel their journey is and all of that. But I feel like now as a parent, now that we've gotten to like that top of the mountain, like the good part, we're like, oh, this is amazing. And like how, I don't want to say this, but how much of a shame it would be for someone to miss out on this. That's it. That is what I think most parents feel. And I think we want everyone to kind of feel that joy and feel that feeling that you've been feeling. That's mainly it. And again, this is not, I have friends that have absolutely decided to not have kids, and that's totally fine. I have other girlfriends that really wanted kids, but whether they've gotten a divorce or whether they haven't found their person yet, it's just something that maybe is not going to happen for them. So, I mean, again, we have friends in all kind of areas in regards to having kids. And again, it's not a judgment thing. It's more, I personally felt like before I had kids, I felt like from other parents, I got that, like when they would ask, like, are you having kids? It's like, who do you think you are? Like, that you can like go through life without this huge responsibility. It felt always like a punishment, which I hate saying, but and I know that like culturally too, and then like different, you know, families will, I feel like, talk about this so differently, but I always kind of felt that. And that's why I was like, I want to do it on my own terms when I'm ready. And I did. But I feel like now seeing like just how amazing it is, it's like, oh, we would have absolutely done this sooner. But along with all the good and how amazing it is, another thing too that I read about while I was pregnant, but it wasn't something that really resonated with me. And it didn't even resonate as I was going through it. But now looking back, I'm like, oh, that totally happened to me. And that is the connection you have with your baby. Like I've heard like, don't worry if you don't feel instantly connected with your child or like in love with your child. And I used to think, well, that's silly. Of course I'm going to love my child. And of course, when my baby was born, it was like, it's weird, but like in the first second you look at them, you're like, you would give your life for that human. It's weird how the body and the mind works that way, but you instantly feel like that. And I remember thinking like, oh, good. So that's, you know, that's not something I'm going to have to deal with. Like I instantly love my child. And you do, but I think another thing that like maybe is part of this, maybe it's a separate thing, but it does take time to fall in love with someone. And that's so weird because like I'm saying, I did instantly love my child, but the more you deal, the more you see someone, the more you, I mean, this sounds so selfish saying it out loud, but it's true. I feel like I love my child a million times more than the day she was born. And, you know, had you asked me the day she was born, I would have probably told you I can't love her more. But that human connection, and I hear that this happens even more with dads than it does with moms, that it takes longer to feel connected to your child. And I think that's another thing too. It's like in the beginning, you like love this child, but they're kind of a stranger. That sounds so weird. But you feel like you're doing all this stuff, you know, to keep them alive. And again, wow, I hope this comes off as genuine and not weird. But I feel like now I have this like connection to Amelia in the morning, like before she even wakes up. I miss her and I can't wait to get to her. Whereas in those first like 3 months, it's like, oh, please sleep longer. Please give me another 10 minutes. Like if I could have a sip of coffee before you wake up, like that would just be amazing. And it was always like, I felt like I was trying to avoid my responsibility. Obviously I didn't, but I'm sure most moms watching this will relate. Well, and of course now I still hope she has the longest nap ever and all of that, of course. But I have this like different connection and this like true, genuine, I want to hang out with this little human. And not just because I want to protect her because she's, you know, a baby, but I actually genuinely love spending time with her. And so again, that's another thing. If you do go through this, like, please be gentle with yourself and remind yourself that it is so normal. And I had heard moms saying like, it took a year for me to connect with my baby. It took, you know, 3 weeks, it took 3 months, whatever it is. And I think now looking back, it did probably take me a year to fully connect. And again, I loved her the day she was born, but it's two different feelings. Whereas I felt like in the beginning, I felt like I was operating from a place of this is what I need to do to keep her healthy and alive. And it is what you need to do. Whereas now I feel like I do it with joy. I think that's the difference. The other thing is the comparison game. It's really hard not to. Not just as a parent, I know that I really compared myself, and I feel like I didn't have a lot of these like low moments of me feeling like I wasn't a good mom, but there was definitely one time where I followed someone on social media and her baby was maybe just a year older than mine. And she was like taking her to this like mommy and me class, and it was just like, and this really like nice car, and it just like the whole situation, like the guilt I felt was more, not even that I'm not as good of a mom as she is, but like, am I going to have the privilege to give my child everything that this mom is giving their child? And it was like, it came from like this guilt of like, I need to be working harder. I need like, and it's weird because I've never really felt that for myself. Like I've never seen, you know, like designer goods on someone else. And I felt like I need that. I need to work hard. I never thought that for myself, but this was the first time that I was like, am I not doing enough? And of course, again, with like all the hormones like going through you, like I feel like you're not the boss of your own brain sometimes, and it's hard to snap out of those negative thoughts more so than any other time in your life. But anyway, the reason why I'm bringing this up is we came full circle later on. She was always like having these beautiful moments with her daughter, but also she like owns like 3 companies, and she's, you know, able to like provide for her family and like in this way that was just so inspiring. And then later on, she explained how she has a ton of help with her kids and how she travels so much for work, and the guilt she felt with leaving her kids in order to maintain these businesses. And like, I felt like a weight fell off of me from that time months ago that I felt guilt from watching her, you know, be so happy and be able to like provide for her kids. And that's when I just realized, like, and I feel like I'm old enough to understand social media and to not really let it get to me, but comparing yourself to something, like, again, you're seeing a tiny piece. You're seeing her take her to this class that maybe you can't afford, blah, 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 but it comes at the cost of her not being there all the time. And so again, please, as a new parent, when you're in bed, think of 5 amazing things you did for your kids. I'm positive you can count 100 if you tried, but just 5 things, and go to bed with that, like, this is what I did for my child. I'm a great parent. And it honestly just like motivates you to do even better the next day. That whole like feeling like you weren't a good parent is not going to be good for you or your kids. So trust me, I did that many nights, wanting to like cry because I felt like I had a hard day, or I felt like I didn't give her everything that I could have emotionally, whatever. And I started doing that one night. I was just like crying myself to sleep. And then I was like, you know what? I'm not going to think of any other thing that I did wrong. I'm only going to think about the things that I did right today. And it instantly changed my mood, and I resorted to this tool so many times during those first 6 months of motherhood. While we're on the subject of comparison, not just as like parents, but comparing your child also, I think can be really negative. I got a message from a mom when I think Amelia was maybe 6 months old, saying that she felt really bad anytime I posted something about one of Amelia's milestones, like sitting or holding a toy or something, because her child did it at a different pace. And honestly, I feel like early, like in the 6 month mark, I wasn't too looking for, is she doing this at the right, time, or in the right time frame. So I didn't think that, obviously I wasn't doing it to be insensitive to parents, but I didn't realize that that was something that parents like even did. I just always heard my parents say like all kids are different, and my parents had 3 kids, and my mom always said how we 3 were all so different. We talked at different stages, we walked at different ages. Anyway, so I just had that in my mind, like kids are just different. There's like no point in comparing, because kind of like by the time they're 5, they'll all be kind of similarly at the same pace or stage. So so that really like got me thinking, like I think I was a lot more sensitive to posting things when it was like, oh my gosh, like Amelia's sitting for the first time and stuff like that. But at the same time, you also have to live your life, and of course you're going to be proud of your child doing something new and cute. But I guess my advice is really just don't let that, really get to you. But in that same note, if you do feel like, I was always very attuned to like seeing signs of like, being on the spectrum or something like that. And with every pediatrician appointment, I always ask like, is this normal? She does this. Like she went through a stage where she would like look up, like I think she was maybe like 3 or 4 months old. And the doctor was like, I don't think that's anything to worry about. And of course she didn't do it during the appointment. And then after that appointment, she never did it again. So she was like, I'm pretty sure she's just, stretching her eye muscles and figuring out different things that she can do. And I think that's all it was, because she never did it again. But like little things like that, I do feel like as a parent, we also need to be proactive. And one thing that I also like told myself is that if Amelia needed help in any area of life, that I wanted to never like neglect that, and really just be a support and get her the help that she needed as early as possible. That's like something that I always told myself like during pregnancy. And more recently, speaking to a friend that has a child that's most likely on the spectrum, like her approach too was very like being very proactive to try and get just help. The earlier you can do it, the better, I think, with any, anything that's like developmentally. So I feel like you're the parent, you'll know better than anyone. Talk to doctors. That's kind of like my advice with that. Obviously I'm no expert, but don't compare, but also you're a smart parent. And if you feel like that there's something that is maybe slightly off or different, you know, definitely don't hold back. Like your pediatrician should really be, I don't know, like I really felt like she was like the third parent. Like she was like such a good source of information, and anytime I had a question, I could just like email her. So I feel like I feel like we kind of just lucked out. I did choose a different pediatrician, and I don't know if this is everywhere, but our pediatrician came to meet me and Amelia in the hospital when she was born, and just kind of everything about her. I've never done this with any other doctor, but the second she came in and she was like, personally, she looked like a really nice person, but as a doctor, it just like, I was just like, no, this is not the person for me. And I literally came home on, you know, on the third or fourth day of having a C-section, and I was like, no. What were my recommendations, you know, for pediatricians? And I just like went down the line, and thankfully the second pediatrician Amelia saw was the pediatrician we now have. And again, like I feel like this whole video is dedicated to her because she really is that incredible. But basically, don't be shy. If you have a pediatrician that you don't feel like aligns with you, or that you don't feel like you're getting the support you or your child needs, I feel like that's really important to have. So don't give up, and, you know, try and, you know, get someone that you are happy and comfortable with. So yeah, I feel like we touched a little bit on sleep, but the one thing that I feel like I never figured out, and I feel like with everything else you kind of eventually learn, was Amelia was never on a sleep schedule until she was maybe 9-10 months old. And I know that this is like because when they're much younger, they have multiple naps a day, and it just like every day was so different. And I think that's one of the hardest things, just being a working mom from home, that was really hard, because you can never count on, I'm gonna have this chunk of time to get in on a meeting or a call or something. So that was really hard, and I could not figure it out. If I like tried to like stick to a routine, like, okay, today, this week, you're going to sleep at 11 a.m. every day for your first nap or whatever, it never worked out. And then obviously when she was tired, she would fall asleep, or I could feel like, okay, now if I put you in your crib, you will, you know, go down for a nap. It felt like she was in control, and it was kind of something that like around the 4 or 5 month mark, I was just like, I surrender. I'm just going to go with your flow, because clearly like I can't figure this out. And obviously my mom's raised 3 kids, and she tried 2 anyway. So I was just like, I'm just gonna go with your flow, and, you know, I'll work when you go to sleep at night, you know, for the night. Then I would have like 2 hours to myself before I went to sleep, and could get some work done there. And then around like close to like her being 1, that's when she started having one really long nap. And I was really fighting to try and make her take that second nap, and it just wasn't working out. And then again, I spoke to the pediatrician, and she was like, that's normal. Maybe your kid wants to have one really long nap. And she was like, how long is long? And I was like, 2.5 hours. And she was like, dude, that's amazing. If you could get your child to sleep for that long of a stretch during the day, you know, she's happy. And then she asked like how many hours she slept at night. And it was like around like 11-12 hours. And she was like, that's perfect. She's getting the adequate sleep in a 24-hour period. So she's happy, you know, you should run with that. And boy, did I. And now we're on a routine. She goes down for her nap unless we're out, but almost every single day at the same time. And she'll sleep, you know, 2.5 hours. And then she kind of like hangs out, you know, in her crib for maybe another 20-25 minutes. And another thing, the pediatrician assured us that that's kind of like when they practice like the words they've learned, and it's like them having their alone time, and also them being comfortable with kind of entertaining themselves. So she's gotten really good at that. So in terms of naps, we're finally at a good place, but I'll just be honest, I never figured out the newborn nap phase. And now that we are a little bit more on a schedule, and considering I am a work from home mom, I definitely wanted Amelia to have more social interactions, even though I feel like we have a very social life and she definitely hangs around a lot of our friends' kids and stuff. But we started doing a lot of like mommy and me classes, classes at the library, like story times. We do playground dates with other kids. So yeah, that's been really fun and kind of taken me out of my comfort zone, because it's essentially like force meeting new people. Like I would never, like, I don't know, at a social, you know, be like, hi, my name's Sylvia, like be my friend. But that's kind of like what you do with other moms and other kids. I mean, I don't force them to be my friends, but you know, the kids, you kind of get them to interact and stuff. So that's been a lot of fun, and that's kind of where we're at now. And yeah, so I feel like if you are more introverted like me, I definitely feel like I have a child that's not introverted. So I definitely always try to, you know, give her what I think, give her an environment that I think she's gonna thrive in. So this has been really like a new stage that's just been really fun for me to, you know, watch her socialize and interact. And yeah, it's just a really fun stage right now. So, but yeah, I think that's all the updates I have for first year of being a parent. We made it. For some reason, I always, in the back of my mind, when it was like really difficult in those first couple of weeks, I was like, if I can get to that 1 year mark, like I'll feel like a pro. And I don't know why the 1 year mark was that for me, but I don't know if I manifested it, but I do feel like when that year hit, I did feel like, okay, I can do this. Like I know what I'm doing. I'm not saying that there's not going to be, you know, difficult stages ahead, or, you know, but I feel like I've got it, which is a really good feeling. A happy Mother's Day to all mothers around the world this month. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I love you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.